All right, so we'll be starting the next session, which is on analytics feature update. So hope all of you are back after that brief break that we had. And I assume that most of you are already joining. I mean, you have already joined in Slack and introduced yourself. If any of you are having issues joining the Slack, please use the Zoom chat so that we can fix it for you. And for those who have joined the Slack, you can just try out the features which are available. And you can also try downloading the Slack application to your computer if you feel that will be comfortable. And in the meantime, my colleagues will add you to the separate groups that you are part of. All right, so let's move on to the analytics features update. So here in this session, we expect to update you on the features, the analytic features that are already there in DHIS2, which have been incorporated over the last 1 to 1.5 years. Right. So here in DHIS2, we are mainly concentrating on four core analytics tools, which are dashboards, data visualizer for charts, and data visualizer for pivot table and map. Please note that I mentioned not as data visualizer and pivot table, but if you can see here, the points 2 and 3, it's data visualizer for charts and data visualizer for pivot table. So why I mentioned it that way is if you are already familiar with DHIS2 version 2.34, you will note that the pivot table app is there, but in addition, you will also be able to access the pivot table inside the data visualizer app. And that is the type of application that will be continued in future. So that's why we have mentioned data visualizer for charts and data visualizer for pivot table. Right. So every release of DHIS2 involves updates to these tools. So what you have to remember is like whatever the interfaces that you all are seeing in version, say for example, version 2.34 will not remain the same over the course of next few years. Because it's a free and open source application, based on the requirements that are coming from countries and the community, the DHIS2 will keep on updating. So please don't memorize by heart the interfaces, like in this pivot table, this particular icon is at the right top corner. No, it might change in future. So always don't memorize or by heart the interfaces, but just remember where the tools are and what you can do with each of the tools. Right. So let us first of all start with the first application, which is the dashboard. So you may remember, if you have been using DHIS2 for a while, that the new dashboard application was implemented in the DHIS2 version 2.29. So in that version, this allows customizing the size of the dashboard items, and also you can change the location of individual dashboard items. So for example, you are seeing this, you are seeing two items here. You can change the size of this item, and also you can change the order and location where this map item will be displayed in your dashboard. And then in addition, there is a support to include rich text in interpretations. So in dashboards, now for example, you are seeing the maps item in this dashboard, and under this map dashboard item, you can write an interpretation. So the interpretation could include a description and may also mention action that a person has to do in case if you note some kind of a change or some criteria is met, which is expected in this particular dashboard item. So you can write this interpretation below each dashboard item, which is also a new feature that has been added over last few versions. And also the rich text support is there, so that you can even, for example, you can write text in bold or italics in the interpretations component. Right. You can also quickly move between charts, tables, and maps in a single dashboard visualization. So what I mean by that is, so for example, now what you're seeing here is a map. But you can also remember that this map visualization if you open it up in Maps application or maybe in GIS, so in Maps application, you can convert it so that you can get the tabular output. So, I mean, you can mainly visual, I mean, you can see this in a better way if you take a example of a chart or a table. So, for example, you will see if you open this chart dashboard item in the data visualizer, you can generate the table or tabular output, which is actually generating this chart output. Just by converting, you can do it in the map item. But now with this new feature, what you can do is you don't actually have to go to the charts application and do the conversion there. But within that dashboard item itself, you will be able to convert and generate the tabular as well as the map output of individual items that are displayed here. And in addition, we have these filters. So for example, a dashboard will be, designed to be viewed, all the analytics to appear at a particular organization unit level and to a particular period level, right? But by using this add filter, you will be able to narrow down all the analytics based on the filter items that you specify. So I'll be demonstrating how to do that in the next session in the analytics demonstration. But for you to know, like we can set a particular organization unit level as well as the period level so that all the output, the analytics output that are displayed on this dashboard will be filtered based on that, the filter criteria we set here, right? You can see what happens here. So for example, when you click on add filter, you can select period and organization units. So once you do that, you will be able to set it up so that all the outputs that are seen in these dashboards will be filtered based on the period and organization you set here. Right. In addition, you can also star a favorite dashboard so that it will be appearing, because now say for example, here you are seeing that in DHIS2, unlike in the vehicles, even though we are using that common name dashboards, unlike a vehicle, we have more than one dashboards in DHIS2. So sometimes it may be a bit confusing at times to find the dashboard items that are, that really matters to you, because the list of dashboards that you are seeing here are too extensive. What you can do is you can just click on the star button so that you can make it a favorite. So it comes right at the top, so that, you won't have trouble finding that particular dashboard in a big list of dashboards. And also in addition, we have improved navigation and menu management in dashboard. So for example, you will be able to quickly view this as a chart, and you can view as a table, and you can click here to open this as inside the maps application. So there has been some improvement in the navigation menu in DHIS2 dashboards as well. Right. And in version 2.31, we introduced the new data visualizer application. Right. So this new data visualizer application includes separately new, a totally new user interface for selecting chart types, dimensions, and also setting the layout. So if you have been using DHIS2 for more than 2 years, you may remember in the previous versions, the chart layout was not so prominently visible within the data visualizer application. So you have to go inside a particular menu and set it. But here from 2.31, you will be able to see the layout, how the series, category, and filter dimensions are arranged, so that if you, in case you want to change the dimensions to change your output, you can quickly do it because it is appearing here, right? And also this layout is now always persistent over the chart. So you can see here, these layout items, those are persistent over the charts. And in last two versions, we have introduced few new chart types, such as year over year bar and line charts. So if you can remember now, in this particular use case here, in this diagram here that you are seeing, the chart diagram, these three, now, for example, you are seeing it's a EPI BCG coverage, right? In percentages. If you want to compare how the trend of a particular data item, say for example, here the BCG coverage was varying between months over few years, right? This was not possible in previous versions of DHIS2. But now we have this year over year bar and line charts using which you can visualize how the trend was over, say, a couple of months during the last few years. So here you can see the green is year 2020, 2019 is in blue, and 2018 is in red. So you can see how the BCG coverage has altered and changed over the months in the last 3 years. So this can be achieved by using the new chart type year over year bar and line charts. And also there was a new addition which is single value charts. So sometimes you see like in dashboards, for example, in recent times, especially most of you, if you have been engaged with COVID-19 surveillance, the dashboards, the ministries were expecting had this, like because the number of confirmed cases and number of deaths. So these numbers are really striking and they wanted to give too much prominence in your dashboard. So this was not possible in DHIS2 versions, maybe 2-3 versions back. But from 2.33, we have introduced this single value charts. So here, a particular value. So for example, what you're seeing here is the COVID-19 suspected cases for the country as a value. This 107 is a chart type, and that could be embedded in the dashboard, which is kind of like a very, a really high requested feature in DHIS2 community. So this has been included. And in addition, there are these gauge charts and single value charts. Now new addition in version 2.34 is that in gauge charts, now we can set the legends so that now you can see this chart color has been changed, and also you can set target lines. So for example, the target coverage is 80, and this can be set for the gauge charts with this new functionality. And also in 2.34, now the single value charts, we can set legends. So for example, just imagine now we have this single value chart where we are expecting a percentage. So in previous versions, actually in 2.33, this percentage value, whatever the value it is, say for example, even if it is 40% or 80% or 90%, it will be just displaying in black color. But now we can set the legends so that supposing that the expected value is more than 80%. If the value is more than 80%, we are satisfied and we want to highlight in green color, that is possible. If it is less than 50, we want to make it in red color, that is also possible. So all this can be achieved by, so what we can do is we can configure a legend first, and we can apply that legend to this single value chart so that previously the plain color text values that were displayed before will now be highlighted in that particular color that we have set in the legend. Right. And also, there is one new feature where the dimensions, the recommended dimensions will be highlighted. So for example, now if you can concentrate here, you are seeing these dots, the green color dots. So these dots are appearing based on the data item selected. So for example, in previous versions of DHIS2, even though we see the list of dimensions, we are not really sure which of these dimensions will be supported by the data items that we have selected here. But with this new feature, based on the dimensions selected here, the probable disaggregated dimensions will be highlighted here so that we can easily know which, if we want to drill it further down and highlight this based on these dimensions, which are the ones that will be supported. So the supported ones will be tagged here with this green color dot. So that's also another useful feature, especially when we are dealing with complicated visualizations. And also a few additions in interpretations. So hope you all are familiar with interpretations. So interpretations are a description or content that we are mentioning just next to a individual analytic output. So here you can see this chart, and we can write an interpretation explaining what is there in this chart, right? And then when we embed it in a dashboard, if any of the users are interested in actually seeing what is happening in this, so for example, once we display this in dashboards, if for some reason we are interested, if somebody comments on this one, right? So if say a district user comments on this interpretation, say he may say like, even though you have mentioned here, I have some queries about the data quality of this particular chart, he can mention it here. So we may be interested to get an instant update as a message or an email whenever somebody makes a comment. So to do that, what you can do is you can click on this bell-shaped icon and you can subscribe to this interpretation item. So once you do that, you'll be receiving frequent update whenever somebody comments on that interpretation. So that's also a new feature. And also, like as in, I mean, this is something that you must be really familiar with. You know, in social media, you can mention people, right? You just type in @ plus the username. And then when we do that, suppose in WhatsApp chat messages or else even in Slack, when we type @ and the username, that particular user will get a notification so that the relevant user will get his attention and he can just come here and see what has happened. So these mentions are also supported in new versions of DHIS2. So you just simply has to put @ mark followed by the username, and then that person who is mentioned will get a notification. And from 2.34, as I mentioned before, pivot tables has been included as an additional chart visualization type. So here, under the types of charts, you will now see pivot table in the data visualizer. So this has been added from version 2.34, and we encourage you to develop your pivot tables using the data visualizer application from now on, even though this pivot table application is still there as a separate app, even in version 2.34, but this will be deprecated in future. And also to make a note on this, that all previously made pivot tables using the pivot table native application are now compatible with the data visualizer. And all the pivot table chart items that you are designing in data visualizer will be also compatible with the existing legacy pivot table application, so that there is no discrepancy or inconsistencies between these two applications. So they are all working fine, and they are kind of supporting each other as of now. And also there are some improvements made to the data visualizer app to carry over to pivot table. So for example, the persistent layout for pivoting items is also there, so that I mean, like this particular persistent layout option, which is available for the data visualizer chart types, is now available for the pivot table as well with this new application. And also the dimension recommendations, as I mentioned before, you can see this green tag that is also supported in this new pivot table item, which is there inside the data visualizer. And there are some new interface improvements and enhanced interpretations are also there in the pivot table now, thanks to the new data visualizer app. So next, move on to the remaining core DHIS2 analytics application, which is maps. So as you can remember, if you have been using DHIS2 for more than 2 years, the new maps application was introduced in version 2.29. So before that, we had the legacy app, which was GIS. So this new maps application, which was introduced in version 2.29, completely supports a new interface. So here, what we do is we kind of bring in to the interface of the maps application the concept of layering. So here we are putting layers. We are actually applying the layers in the real sense within the application. So we start off by adding a base map, and on top of that we can add a boundary map, and on top of that we can add a thematic map. So this layering is completely supported in this new 2.29 application. And there are so many types of layers that are supported, as you can see here. And then there are a few new additions. Now, for example, from version 2.32 onwards, you can now download the maps as images, because this was a, very high requested feature, downloading maps as images. So it is supported from version 2.32, and you can even define where the legend should appear, so that the people can make a sense out of the map that they have downloaded. And also from 2.31 onwards, we can download the map data, the tabular data, as a file which is supported as a GeoJSON file, which is supported by GIS applications such as ArcGIS and QGIS. and whichever other applications which is supporting GeoJSON files, you can download this particular file from DHIS2 and open it using your favorite GIS application. Like this, you're seeing here. And this is the table that I was mentioning, the GIS maps data table. So one interesting feature of this table in the maps item is that, hope you can see these boxes here, the input boxes. So supposing, let us look at this value table. So you can see here now, I'm not, okay, now we can just look at this image and get an idea. So this is this map is about EPI BCG coverage, right? And you can see if the coverage is low, it is in red color. And if it is high, it is in green color. So here in this table, you will see that there is a column called value. And here you will see the values for particular districts. So supposing if we just want to filter out the values, say for example, we want to only see the districts which are reporting values less than 70%. So we can just type in the filter item here, less than 70%, and it will filter out the items. And in the map also, it will only mention and display the areas which are fulfilling the criteria defined here. So this definition of criteria and the filtering is another very good feature that is supported in this data table. And in addition, you can also apply filters in the maps. So for example, you will see this new filter tab. Here we can define the data to be filtered by the supported dimensions. So for example, here you can see that the dimension 6 is supported, and you can select only the data supporting that particular dimension to be added and displayed in the maps. So this is a quick update of the new features that are supported in the DHIS2 with regard to the analytics. So if you have any queries about the features, of course, it is too early to query because I have not, we have not gone into details about individual applications, but I just wanted to give you a gist of ideas about what you are going to see in next few days when it comes to the analytics. So we'll be going into details of each of them in the following days. So this was just an overview. And next I'm actually going to do the demonstration of this analytic tool. So I will just take a use case of a dashboard that we are seeing in training land, and we will go into analyzing, looking at the data in the next session. So I will just pause it for now. So if you have any queries, you can ask it in Slack.